Hello, everyone. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how to create a quiz or a test in Google Forms, so a virtual test. And again, this video can go good for people who are going virtual, or even if you're not going virtual. I used to do this all the time because I hate loose papers, and so I actually was transitioning my class into a paperless class. So I would actually do a tons of tests and quizzes this way. So it works either way. If you want to do in person, and if you're doing in person instruction and you want to be paperless, or if you're doing virtual and you have to do something electronic. So first off, I'm gonna give you a tour of my tester quiz. This is one I actually previously had to create for something else, for another contracting job that I do. So I created a tester quiz to kind of test out some of my teammates and things like that. And I was testing out the functionality to make it sure that it looked the way I wanted it to. So this is just a tester quiz that I developed, like I develop all of my quizzes. And this one, has their name, first name, last name. Now for my students, this is a question that I wouldn't put in there because a feature that I set on there, I automatically know who they are. So, and then I just put my questions in, and then I can put short answer questions in here. I put multiple choice questions in there, and I also put true and false questions in there. And then if you notice, there's a red star next to the question, which means that it's a required question. Now, this is a feature that you can turn on or turn off, depending on how you want it and the type of quiz or test that you want to set. And what that means is, if pretty much on my testing quizzes for students, I always put that each question is required. So for each question, I put required. And that means that if they skip a question, it will not let them submit it. It will automatically make them go and do the question before they are able to submit it. And if you have younger students, or even if you have high schoolers or middle schoolers that they kind of breeze through tests and quizzes and they just kind of click, or they may overlook a question, then they may miss the question and then miss out on those points. So I would prefer I always prefer mine to be required when I'm doing a test or quiz for my students, so that just in case it was an oversight, it won't let them submit it. So they have to go and make sure they put an answer for every question. So then one thing that I really, really love about Google, I did this in Google Forms if I did not already state that. One thing I love about this is that up here at the top, it says responses. So I can get a summary of everybody's response who completed the quiz. And I can do the summary in a couple different ways. So it gives you the summary and it gives you a graph and it gives you all the data points for that. And then you can also go down and you could see the scores, and you can see when they physically submitted it. And then if I scroll up, I can go through and click on questions, and I could go through each question. It'll have each question in a drop-down menu, and I could see how many students got this question right, like how many students got it wrong. And then if I click on it, I can actually see the name. I'm not going to click on it because it actually has real people's names. So it'll tell me for that specific question who got it right, who got it wrong. And then I can go through and I could pull individual reports. So if you want to look at a particular student's report, I could go through and I could look at every single question that they answered on here. And then my favorite feature of this is I can export this into a spreadsheet. So right here, this little spreadsheet tab, boom, click it. So, and then that takes me out and it takes me to a spreadsheet where already has everything done, and it has the time, date, stamp where they submitted, their email address, it has their score, their name, and all the questions that I put on the quiz, and what all the questions that I put on the quiz are at the top, and then what their responses, each student's responses here. And then of course in Google Spread, you can categorize it. You can do it in alphabetical order. You can do it in score order, however you want to do it. Or you could simply want to just print, because sometimes I've exported this and downloaded it as a PDF, and I've printed it and used it as a data sheet, as a record, as a hard copy record of scores. So let's go through building one of these. All right, let me get rid of that one. So again, I created it in Google Forms. So I just typed in Google Forms, and then it'll pull up. Yours won't look like this. These are all my old Google Forms that I've already created in the past. But it will have features like this at the top. It'll say start a new form, and it'll give you options. So if it's like a quiz, we're doing a quiz, so you would click blank quiz. And it'll be like this, very basic, very blank, and it'll literally say blank quiz. So the first thing I do is always go change it. And so let's do fun quiz, I guess. Change the name of it. Now, in here where it says form description, I always put directions. So student, take your time completing this quiz. So I always put directions there. So if you have some directions or not, you could leave it blank. It's not going to make a difference either way. It's not going to affect the quiz if you leave it blank. So now, first question, let's see. Let's see, what month is it? So I'm going to do the first question. I'm going to do multiple choice. And so I'll make sure multiple choice. And you can do, so these are the options for questions that you can do. And even with multiple choice, you have like a couple different options. You have multiple choice like the bubble, your multiple choice boxes, or you can have multiple choice drop down. I never use a drop down because for some younger kids that's kind of confusing. So I always either use the bubble or the check box. So I like the check box. So let's just say it might be January. No, it's not January, but let's just put some different options. It might be July. It's not July, but let's put some different options. So after that, I have my question done. And now, before I move on to create more questions, you need to set the answer key, the point value, and you need to determine whether you want this required or not. So right here at the bottom, click answer key, and then it'll automatically prompt you over here to the right to determine how many points you want it to be. So let's say I want this to be 20 points. Really, in actual, I would never put a multiple choice question that's 20 points, but hypothetically speaking. So you set the point value, and then you click on whichever the actual answer is. And so of course we know it's August currently, and so that sets the answer key, and then you click done. So now I know that it's worth 20 points, and if I click on answer key again, you'll see that August is already selected because that's the correct answer. And now I need to determine whether I want this to be a required question or not. And because this is a quiz, I do want this to be required, and I do not want students to be able to submit this quiz unless they've selected an answer for this question. So again, I did the question, did the answer choices, click answer key to set the point value of how many points you want it worth, and to also click the right answer so that it'll self-score when students take it. And then determine if you want this as a required question or not. Now, to go to another question or add another question, what you do, you have some features of to the right, and one of them says add question. So click add question, and I scroll down. And so now the first question I did was multiple choice. So let's see. Let's do another one. Let's do a short answer. So short answer is, if it were a paper test, it would be equivalent to like your fill in the blank. Well, you can do fill in blank as multiple choice or a short answer. So a short answer would be like a short answer, or sometimes I've used it as a fill in the blank. Either or, depending on what day I'm feeling, how I'm feeling that day. So let's see this. Let's see. Short answer question. What was? I'm just making up questions at the top of my head. So what was the purpose of the March on Washington? And of course, I would put this if we had just finished a lesson on March on Washington. And so I set it as short answer. And then now for the answer key, click answer key. For short answer questions, what you may or may not do, with short answer questions, I tend to not set a correct answer for short, or I should put like a general answer. But then if I have a short answer question, it's a question that I want to go back and review for myself. And so I'll set the point value. Let's say this is 10 points. And I'll leave it like that, and I'll click done. And so if you notice, I didn't, because it says add correct answer, I did not add the correct answer, and I did not check this box, because this is a question that I want to go in and physically look at students, answer myself, and then score it. And then it'll allow you to do that. So when you do questions like this, like short answer or long answer paragraph questions, and you leave them without a correct answer, students can submit their quiz. They can submit their quiz, and then you can physically go through in their response. When the responses pull up, you can physically go through, read their question, their response, and you can go in and edit and type in manually their score for that question, and then it'll calculate their grade automatically for the short answer or the long answer questions. But all the other questions, like the multiple choice questions and things like that, they'll automatically self-score as long as you put the answer key and the point value. So let's see, do I want to add another question? Oh, let's do this one so I can show you how the date. Actually, the date one, so you would use the date one for something like this. I've used the date one for like, when is your birthday, on a survey that I did. Or if you teach like social studies, when did World War II begin? And then you would click the date, and then students can then click on the calendar and select their answer. And then of course you need to set a point value. Click answer key, set a point value. So I say I want this to be 10 points. And then you can enter feedback or not. And then decide whether you want this as a required question, which is a quiz. So I do want it as required. Now, so pretty much you can do the rest of your test or quiz like this. Determine what type of question you want. Short answer, paragraph, date, question, multiple choice. And the true or false is the same thing as multiple choice. So all you do is just write the question, and then you would just have two selections, true or false. And you just type it in. So once you finish making your quiz, now this is the important part. you have to set the features that you want in your quiz. So for me, let's go back to my old quiz that I had. Nope, I don't have it on this one. So let's just go through these. So you go up here to the top, the little spinny wheel thingy settings. So I'm gonna go through a couple of the settings that I always make sure I check or uncheck when I do quizzes. So first, you need to determine whether or not. Most of the time, it'll automatically collect their names, their email addresses if they're using Chromebooks. But I've ran into schools where it doesn't. So I always make sure that I check collect email addresses. That way, it will automatically have their email address attached to their quiz, just in case, because I have run into the problem where it did not automatically do it. And when students submitted their quiz, I had a whole bunch of quizzes and none of them had names on it. So I literally had to go through and wipe everybody's quiz out and they had to redo it. So always lesson learn, check collect email addresses, because of course if you're working in a school district, it'll automatically be their name. So I don't need a question that has them type in their name because their email address is their name. So I know who it is. And then another feature for your slicksters is whether you want to limit one response or not. So I always check limit one response, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I had a lovely fifth grader who I went in on I looked at the responses and I noticed that I was seeing the same student, 2 or 3 times. Their quiz 2 or 3 times. Come to find out, my student took the quiz, failed it the first time, went back in, took the quiz again, and didn't make a good grade. So went back in the third time and took it and passed it. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So what do you think I'm going to do? You think I'm going to take the first one or the best one? No, I'm going to erase your second two and I'm going to take the first one. And so checking this box allows them to only do it one time. Because you will have some that will be like, oh man, I bombed it the first time. Let me go back in here and redo it for a better grade. Unless you want students to do that, then I would check this. Now these two, it's up to you. I never do that. I don't let them edit after they submit it. And I don't do the see summary charts and text responses because that means that they see that. And a lot of times I deal with third graders. So, and then last year I dealt with fifth graders. So they don't really understand that piece. So I never check that. So then I move over here to presentation. And this is another one. Presentation. I usually always check shuffle question order. Because if you teach multiple classes or multiple blocks of students, then some of them try to get slick and be like, oh yeah, number 1 is such and such, number 5 is such and such. So I always click shuffle question order because you never know what your number 1 is. Your number 1 is not going to be the same as the next person number 1. So I always click that. And then I go over the quizzes. And of course, it's automatically set to make this a quiz. And then here is the option whether you want to immediately have the grade released or whether you want to manually review it. And then so this just depends on you. Me, when I have a quiz that is all multiple choice, I always select immediately after each submission because that way students can immediately see their grade. Once they hit submit, they can immediately see their grade because there's nothing in there for me to review. But if you have a quiz that has short answer or paragraph responses, then you should click later after manual review. That way students can submit it and you could go in and you could read their responses and you can give them the score for that particular question, and then students will be able to see their final grade for that quiz. And then I always leave these checked. afterwards, because I set it to where students can only take the quiz one time. So I leave these checked to where that after they take the quiz, they can see what questions they missed, what was the correct answer. Now, if you're allowing students to take it multiple times, I would uncheck these, because then if they after they bomb it the first time, they've seen all the questions they missed and the correct answer, so they of course they're going to pass it the second time. So pretty much it's just up to you how you want to set your quiz, and that's pretty much it. And then boom. Okay, now let's see how I can upload these. So how now I created my quiz. Now I need to upload it to Google Classroom or whatever portal you all are using. So how you do that is I would go to my Google Classroom platform, and I would type in fun quiz, and then I would go to my quiz, and I would let me go to send at the top right corner, and then you'll see some options like you can email it, or this is the one I'm looking for, link. I can embed the link. So I highlight the link, copy the link, and then I go to my Google platform, and then I put fun quiz. That was the title of it, and so I click add, and then I can add the link, and then I paste the link, and then click add link, and then I have some options. I can either immediately post it by clicking post, or I could schedule it to be posted, or I could just save it to post for another day. And I'm going to immediately post it. If I want students to immediately post it, if you want students to take it right, if you're putting it on there right then and there when students are in front of you. If not, I would schedule it to be posted, because I've also had students that I was seeing, like I had a first block class, and I went ahead and created the quiz for everybody, all of my classes, and I went ahead and posted it to all of my classes' platforms. But then what I realized is that before second block, it was a student in my second block class that before second block even rolled around, I had a quiz for him. And I didn't understand why, because you haven't even come to my class yet. And come to find out, he went on his Google Classroom while he was in another class, and he saw that I had posted a quiz, which means he knew that there was a quiz coming up. So he went ahead and took it before he even got to my class. And so if you want it to post immediately, then just know students are going to have access to it immediately. But if you want to schedule it for a certain time, then you can schedule it for a certain time. So where if your second block starts at let's see 10:30, then you can schedule it for it not to post until 10:45 or 10:35, so that way you don't have slicksters that go and do it early. But it's posted and students have access to it, and that's it. And then they come in, you give your directions, and you tell them to take your quiz, and then they take the quiz. And once they take the quiz, literally while students would take their quiz, I would literally just be at my desk, and I would be on this tab right here that says responses, because it's in real time. So as students submit them, it'll automatically populate, boom, 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 boom on here, and you see it. And so literally what I would do is I would have this screen up, and I would do a split screen, and I would have like my PowerPoint in a browser on this side of my screen, and as students submit it, I would just plug in their grade on PowerPoint like that, and then I'll be done. So yes, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be posting more videos about different things of how you can go paperless in your classroom. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm always open for questions, or if you need another tutorial on something else specific, let me know, and I will be of service as much as I can. Thank you.